Hello everyone, this is 200,000 units and today I have a retrospective review of III-57 Clone Commander Bly. Now then, this figure was originally released as III-33 Clone Commander in both red and green paint schemes. This is because when Bly was originally designed, he was supposed to have red armor before Lucasfilm decided that blended in too much on Felucia, so they swapped him to yellow. Now you'd think that might be the end of the story. He got two other interesting-ish unnamed variants, though the red one did go on to become Clone Commander Davis, and that's the end of the story. However, it is not. When Hasbro then released an actual Clone Commander Bly figure, i.e. this one, they made, well, let's say a number of errors when shipping out various batches of this figure. There are about, what, 3 or 4 different variations on this figure that I will point out. So firstly, as you can see, this Bly has yellow shoulder and leg joints. There is a version out there with white shoulder and leg joints. There's also a version without any muck and weathering on the lower shins and arms, and most iconically, the original version of Bly shipped by Hasbro does not have the dark brown on the chest and helmet. In fact, the version I have here is the rare brown stripe Bly. Now, I was lucky enough to pick this up for only £13, which is an excellent deal in my opinion. And it's nice to have. I mean, it's probably the rarest figure in my collection by that margin. Anyway, it's time to take a look at the sculpt and accessories. Now then, as I mentioned, this Bly is the same one we see in the III-33 Clone Commander mold, so nothing special there. It's a fairly standard clone mold for the 2005 and earlier period, nothing special. As you can see, molded camera, plastics kind of flexible, looks a bit wide and flary around the back, I would say. Straps for the holsters, an extra ammo band around the bicep, and then you've got the pauldron, realistic style of course, because the animated one didn't exist, with more ammo straps down there, and then a head with Bly's iconic macro binoculars. It is worth saying that I personally feel they look better in the up position than the down. I think that looks a little goofy, and as you can see, it's on a rather unsightly looking nub and thing, whatever you call that system, which doesn't look the greatest when it's down, especially from the sides. It also means that a lot of these figures that you see nowadays are missing the macro binocular part, which is very unfortunate because he does look nice. It does look nice when it's up, in my opinion. Moving on to articulation, already displayed the macro binoculars. The head kind of full rotates, though it's obstructed by the camera, and as I'm sure you could see, it did pop off in that when I was turning it. Shoulder articulation, standard for a clone trooper of this time. Full 360 rotation there, about 90 degrees, maybe a little bit more on the elbows, and standard swivel arms. That's not swivel arms, swivel hands, sorry. Moving on to the waist, it is a very, actually, right, yeah, okay. Bly has no waist articulation, which is a bummer. The only thing moving is the camera, which is slightly unsightly attached here by a peg. Legs, standard swivel joint, quite stiff, and the camera does hinder forward articulation slightly. Knees, standard. I've not moved this guy much since I bought him. standard 90 degrees-ish, though again hindered by the camera. And then ankles are standard for this period, a fair bit back, a little bit forward, though also this foot mold doesn't look as clunky as, say, the one on Clone Commander Gree, which is good. Moving on to accessories. Bly comes with the standard mold DC-15 blaster rifle that was used a lot at the time. These got replaced by the superior, much superior blaster mold that must have been released in, I think, 2007, which is more movie accurate than this, longer and thinner, though it does mean it's a bit more fragile. What I do like about this one, very sturdy, a little bit of flex, but not too much, quite hard to bend it properly out of position, though it is chunky and a little bit cartoonish almost. Looks like something you'd see in the Clone Wars micro series. Then moving on to the pistols, these are supposed to be DC-17s, like we see Captain Rex and others use in the Clone Wars. However, Hasbro obviously didn't get the memo in 2005 when they were making this mold. Instead, we end up with this slightly strange looking blaster that appears to be based off the Scout Trooper pistol, interestingly enough. It's not bad, fits in the figure's hands okay, but it is it's interesting. As far as I'm aware, the only Bly that actually comes with proper blaster pistols in 1:18 scale is the 2013 5POA one, which is not great. Other than that, yeah, already talked about. Actually, let's just, well, try and take that off. As you can see, the pauldron is quite tightly secured by that massive ball joint, so not much chance you getting it off there. Already talked about the macro binoculars. Not bad, but not the best in my opinion. It could have been a bit better, though it is 2005 when this was released, so I can't really fault them. I know things have come a long way in 2022. Anyway, that's about all I've got to say on Bly, so I'll move on to my overall thoughts, I think. So then, my overall thoughts on Clone Commander Bly are as follows. I think this is the best version of him we've seen released to date, and I won't bother going for any of the other ones. They're all based on this mold, and this is the only version that's actually screen accurate. So I personally wouldn't sacrifice that, even though I do appreciate that this variant is quite rare, and the brown stripe can charge a premium on the secondary markets. How it holds up today, I mean, standard Clone Wars from 2005, we've seen better, we know Hasbro can do better. I'd like to see this figure revisited, maybe with a better attempt at the macro binoculars, cloth camera of some sorts, and just better articulation. Losing the waist articulation is a big disadvantage here, especially when, if you think, even in 2005, you had the ROTS Evolutions mold, which had a camera, but also had waist articulation, which is the one they used for later 327th Star Corps figures. In terms of displaying him, Order 66 on Felucia setup, you've got a range of 327th troopers, you've got the Gala Grub, you've got Ayla Secura, so he works well enough in there. Solid display figure, maybe not so much an action figure by today's standards. Anyway, that's all I've got to say on this guy, so thank you for watching, and see you next time.